In the fast-paced, pressure-filled world we live in today, people often find themselves trapped in a whirlwind of endless expectations and desires. From the moment we wake up until we fall asleep, we are constantly seeking perfection, a perfect job, a perfect relationship, or even a perfect self. However, these things are mere illusions we create for ourselves, and it is these very illusions that lead to fatigue, stress, and suffering. The profound lessons from Buddhism and Zen teachings can help us realize that happiness, success, and love do not lie in the perfection or results we desire. Instead, they are found in the ability to let go, accept the present, and live fully in each moment life offers. Our journey begins by reflecting on ourselves and the world around us. In the light of Buddhist wisdom, we are reminded that life is impermanent, and everything is transient. We are born, grow old, and ultimately leave this world. Everything we hold, material possessions, relationships, will change over time. Therefore, clinging to these things only brings pain and disappointment. In the Zen tradition, there is a famous story about a monk and a teacup that vividly illustrates the meaning of letting go. One day, a scholar came to meet a Zen master to learn about the way. The master invited him for a cup of tea. As he poured the tea, the master kept pouring, even though the teacup was already full. Tea spilled over the edge, yet the master did not stop. The scholar could no longer bear it and shouted, "Master, the cup is full. You cannot pour any more." The Zen master looked at him and said, "Just like this teacup, your mind is full of your own opinions and thoughts. How can I teach you about Zen unless you empty your mind?" This story teaches us that to embrace new and profound experiences, we must let go of preconceived notions, expectations, and attachments to what we already know. Only when we empty our minds can we truly live in the present and discover the genuine values that life has to offer. The practice of letting go is not an act of weakness or surrendering responsibility. It is an awakening, a deep realization that nothing can be controlled except for ourselves. We can control our thoughts, emotions, and actions, but we cannot control others or the events that happen around us. When we recognize this, we feel lighter and freer. To achieve peace and happiness, we need to learn to live in the present moment. Mindfulness is an essential tool to help us practice this. Mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts or abandoning emotions, but about acknowledging and accepting them without judgment. When we focus on each breath, each step, or each sensation, we begin to experience profound peace within ourselves. Through this process, we also learn to love and accept ourselves. We don't need to strive to become someone else, nor do we need to achieve great accomplishments to feel valuable. Our existence, with all its flaws and mistakes, is already a wonderful thing. We must learn to love and accept ourselves as we are, and from there, we will know how to love and accept others. By letting go of expectations and living mindfully, we will find true happiness and peace. Happiness is not something distant, nor is it the result of endless striving. It lies in the present moment, in each moment we live fully and sincerely. Peace is not the absence of storms, but the ability to maintain our center in all circumstances. Through this journey, we will come to understand that happiness, success, and love are not found at the destination, but along the path we travel. Let go of attachments, live with mindfulness, and discover the beauty of life in the present. This is the message that Buddhism and Zen seek to convey to us. In life, people often get caught up in desires and expectations of perfection, success, or happiness. However, many fail to realize that these things often lie beyond their control. The story of the monk and the traveler serves as a testament to the importance of focusing on what we can control and letting go of what is beyond our ability. One day, a traveler from afar came to seek advice from a renowned Zen master. The traveler was a successful man but always felt uneasy and dissatisfied with himself, despite having achieved many accomplishments. He asked the monk, "Master, why is it that even though I've tried my best and achieved many things in life, I still do not feel happy or at peace?" The monk smiled and did not respond immediately. Instead, he led the traveler to a garden in the temple. They sat by a large, ancient tree, and the monk began to tell a story. Once upon a time, there was a farmer who lived in a small village. He owned a precious horse, which was considered his most valuable possession. One day, this horse suddenly disappeared. The villagers came to console him, but he simply said, "I do not know if this is good or bad." A week later, the horse returned, bringing with it a herd of wild horses. The villagers came to congratulate him, but he still said, "I do not know if this is good or bad." A few days later, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses and fell, breaking his leg. The villagers came to offer their condolences, and he still said, "I do not know if this is good or bad." A month later, soldiers came to the village to draft young men into the army. Because of his injury, the farmer's son was exempted from military service. The villagers came to congratulate the farmer, but once again, he said, "I do not know if this is good or bad." This story illustrates that we cannot control the events that happen in life, nor can we predict what will come. However, we can control our attitude and response to those events. After hearing the story, the traveler thought deeply and realized that he had always been trying to control things beyond his ability, instead of focusing on what he could do. He asked the monk, "So how can I focus on what I can control?" The monk replied, "Start with yourself. We cannot change others or the events that occur, but we can change our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Slow down, take time to observe and understand yourself. When you understand yourself, you will know how to adjust your attitude and actions to fit the situation. The key is to accept that there are things we cannot change and let go of unrealistic expectations." The monk went on to explain that focusing on what we can control not only helps reduce stress and anxiety, but also opens the door to freedom and inner peace. When we no longer worry about things outside of our control, we will feel lighter and can live fully in the present. Mindfulness is an effective practice for this. By focusing on the present moment, we can clearly recognize our thoughts, emotions, and actions, and then adjust them to fit the circumstances. Mindfulness is not about stopping thoughts or eliminating emotions, but about acknowledging and accepting them without judgment. When we live with mindfulness, we will realize that happiness and peace are not distant goals, but are found right in the present moment. The monk concluded, "Remember, true freedom begins when we let go of what we cannot control. When we focus on what we can control, we will find true peace and happiness." The traveler took the monk's advice to heart, returned home, and began practicing mindfulness. He learned to accept the things he could not change and focused on improving himself. Gradually, he began to feel lighter and happier, and he realized that happiness does not lie in external achievements, but in inner peace and contentment with oneself. Life is a series of imperfect events. We are born, we grow, we face ups and downs, and eventually, we leave this world with our own unique marks. However, throughout this journey, many people become obsessed with the concept of perfection, forgetting that it is the imperfections that truly make life beautiful. The idea of perfection is an illusion created by the human mind. It is built upon unrealistic expectations, the desire to have everything complete and flawless. But the truth is, nothing in this world is perfect. From the wildflower by the roadside, to the majestic mountain, to ourselves, all things carry their flaws and imperfections. Buddhism has long recognized this truth and teaches that imperfection is a natural part of life. The Buddha once taught that everything is impermanent, meaning it is always changing and will never remain perfect forever. We cannot expect everything to unfold according to our desires, for life is not a series of events programmed to meet our expectations. The story of a cracked ceramic vase serves as a clear illustration of imperfection. A potter had created a vase with all his dedication and effort. However, during the firing process, the vase cracked. The potter was deeply disappointed and thought about discarding it. But a Zen master passing by saw it and advised him to keep the vase and use the crack to plant a small tree. Over time, the cracked vase became the home for a beautiful flowering plant, and the crack itself became a distinctive feature that enhanced the vase's unique beauty. This story teaches us that imperfection is not something to fear or be ashamed of. On the contrary, it is an opportunity for us to discover and create new values. In every flaw, every mistake, there is a valuable lesson. If we know how to recognize and learn from it, we will grow and develop further. Accepting imperfection also helps us live more lightly. Instead of always striving for perfection, we can focus on doing our best with what we have and accepting the outcome, even if it doesn't meet our expectations. This not only alleviates pressure on ourselves, but also opens a door for us to embrace and appreciate the good things in life. In the practice of meditation, accepting imperfection is an essential part. When sitting in meditation, we do not seek absolute quiet or a state of thoughtlessness. Instead, we learn to acknowledge and accept all thoughts, emotions, and sensations without judgment. This helps us understand that peace is not found by eliminating all that is imperfect, but by the ability to accept and live harmoniously with them. Buddhism also teaches that the imperfection of life is where we can find compassion and love. When we realize that no one is perfect, we will more easily forgive the mistakes of others, as well as our own mistakes. From this, we can live more genuinely and harmoniously with those around us. Accepting imperfection does not mean we abandon all effort or become passive. On the contrary, it is a proactive way of living, helping us face reality with awareness and flexibility. When we accept that everything has flaws, we will more easily find joy and happiness in the small, simple things in life. When faced with challenges and difficulties, instead of resenting or feeling disappointed, we should learn to see them as valuable lessons life offers. Every challenge is an opportunity for us to refine ourselves, develop patience, perseverance, and the ability to overcome adversity. It is precisely in difficult moments that we see our inner strength and adaptability. Life is a journey full of colors, with imperfections and beauty intertwined. Accepting imperfection is a crucial step on the path to inner peace. Let us learn to cherish and love life with all its imperfections, for it is these very imperfections that create a rich and meaningful tapestry of life. Mindfulness, or Chien Ni Min, Vietnamese, is a familiar concept in Buddhism, but to truly understand and practice it fully, we must delve deeply into its core philosophy. Mindfulness is not merely the cessation of thought, it is the awakened state of awareness, the recognition and full living in each moment of life, without being swept away by the endless stream of thoughts and emotions. In our modern, fast-paced lives, we are often easily caught up in worries about the past or predictions and expectations about the future. We frequently dwell on things that have passed, regretting mistakes, or anxiously anticipating what is to come. These distractions prevent our hearts from finding peace, and we lose the ability to fully experience what is happening in the present. Mindfulness is the method that helps us break free from this state. When practicing mindfulness, we focus on the breath and present sensations, not judging or attempting to change them. The breath is the natural rhythm of the body, the very sign that we are alive, and it is present in every moment. By focusing on the breath, we bring our mind back to the present moment and release ourselves from the endless cycle of thoughts about the past and future. A story from the Buddha's time illustrates this concept of mindfulness clearly. One day, the Buddha and his disciples were walking through a forest. He stopped by a stream and instructed the disciples to sit down. The Buddha picked up a branch and drew a line in the earth, then asked, "What do you see?" One of the disciples replied, "I see a straight line, Venerable Sir." The Buddha smiled and said, "As you look at this line, focus on your breath. Acknowledge each inhalation and exhalation, without thinking about anything else. This is mindfulness." The disciples followed the Buddha's instructions, and gradually they felt a deep sense of peace and stillness within. When we focus on the breath, we do not simply observe it but live with each rhythm, each passing moment. This practice frees us from the shackles of thoughts and emotions and brings us fully back to the present. An essential aspect of mindfulness is non-judgment. As we become aware of and live in each moment, we should not judge or evaluate our experiences. Instead of seeing negative emotions like anxiety, sadness, or anger as enemies to be eradicated, we learn to accept them as a natural part of life. In doing so, we come to realize that these emotions no longer become the source of suffering, but instead, they are experiences that can help us understand ourselves more deeply. Mindfulness also enhances our ability to concentrate and reduces stress. When we focus on the present, we are no longer distracted by unnecessary thoughts and emotions. This helps our minds become clearer and more serene. When the mind is at peace, we are able to face life's challenges with greater calmness and clarity, rather than being swept away by impulsive, uncontrolled reactions. The practice of mindfulness is not just a method to achieve temporary peace, but also a path that leads to enlightenment. When we live mindfully, we realize that happiness and peace are not found in external conditions but lie within our own hearts. We do not need to search for happiness elsewhere, for it is always present in each moment of life. In a world full of change and uncertainty, mindfulness is a powerful tool that helps us find peace and stillness within. By practicing mindfulness, we not only improve the quality of our own lives but also become more connected and harmonious with those around us. Mindfulness is a precious gift that the Buddha passed on to humanity, and if we cherish and practice it, we will find true peace and happiness in life. On the path of spiritual practice and life, each of us will inevitably face challenges and difficulties. However, if we look deeply into each experience, we will see that every challenge holds a valuable lesson. Changing our perspective from seeing difficulties as obstacles to viewing them as opportunities for learning and growth is a pivotal moment in the journey toward enlightenment and inner peace. Life, like a river, flows continuously. Nothing is permanent, and every event that occurs carries a profound meaning. When we face failure, instead of quickly labeling it as misfortune, we should pause and ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? This simple question opens a new door for us, where hidden lessons await. A story from the time of the Buddha illustrates this perspective clearly. A young monk, during a meditation session, had an undesirable experience. He felt that he had failed and did not reach the state of tranquility he had hoped for. Feeling deeply disappointed, he went to his teacher and complained about his failure. The teacher smiled and asked, "What do you think your failure is?" The young monk replied, "I tried my best to meditate, but I couldn't maintain my focus. I feel that I have failed." The teacher gently responded, "Your failure is not in your inability to concentrate, but in how you view your experience. Every time you lose focus, that is an opportunity to recognize it and bring your mind back to the present. It is through this awareness that you are learning patience and self-acceptance. From this story, we realize that failure is not something to fear, but rather an essential part of the journey of growth. Each time we fall, we have the chance to rise again, learn from our mistakes, and become stronger. This change in perspective helps us approach life with a lighter, more positive attitude. In Buddhism, the concept of impermanence, *anicca**, is one of the foundational teachings. Impermanence reminds us that everything changes, and nothing is eternal. When we understand and accept this, we are no longer bound by expectations and stubbornness. Instead, we learn to live in acceptance and open ourselves to whatever comes our way. Another aspect of changing our perspective is the ability to see meaning in what may seem meaningless. In every event, whether it be suffering or joy, there is a profound lesson waiting for us to discover. For example, when we lose a loved one, the pain may feel overwhelming. But if we look deeply into this pain, we may recognize the value of life, of love, and of gratitude for the moments that have passed. Changing perspective is not an easy task. It requires patience, courage, and acceptance. But when we truly practice it, we will find that each challenge becomes an opportunity for us to grow and move closer to enlightenment. We will no longer feel pressured by what happens around us. Instead, we will live a meaningful and fulfilling life. This world is always full of change, and the path of practice is not always smooth. But with an awakened mind and a correct perspective, we can find peace in every circumstance. Remember that each difficulty is an opportunity for us to learn, grow, and become a better version of ourselves. Everything that happens has its own meaning, and our task is to explore and learn from those meanings. In daily life, we often find ourselves trapped in a cycle of demands and desires, much of it due to the deep-seated mindset of entitlement. We tend to think that life should offer us good things, and when those desires are unmet, dissatisfaction and suffering quickly follow. However, Buddhism teaches us that life owes us nothing. It is this mindset that frees us from the endless cycle of attachment and helps us find peace within our hearts. Let us reflect on the story of an old monk and his young disciple. The young disciple frequently expressed his dissatisfaction with life, believing that he deserved more from others and from the world around him. One day, the old monk led the young disciple to a mountain where a small stream flowed. He told the disciple to look at the clear water and asked, "What does this stream owe you?" The disciple, confused, replied, "Master, the stream owes me nothing. It simply flows to cool the earth." The old monk smiled and explained, "That is correct. The stream owes you nothing, yet it brings cool water and life to all beings. Similarly, life owes you nothing. What you receive is not entitlement but a gift. Be grateful and accept everything with a sincere heart." The mindset that life owes us nothing is a great step toward letting go of attachment to entitlement. When we always think we deserve good things, we easily fall into dissatisfaction when those desires are unfulfilled. However, when we shift our thinking to, "What can I contribute?" our minds are liberated from comparison and competition. Buddhism emphasizes the teaching of anatta non-self, meaning the letting go of the selfish I, to realize that true happiness comes from giving, not from receiving. When we focus on contributing and serving others, we not only benefit the community, but we also nourish our own hearts with compassion and deep satisfaction. This is the true value of the simple things in life. One practical example is the practice of generosity. In Buddhism, generosity is not only the act of sharing material goods but also sharing in spirit and wisdom. When we practice generosity with no expectation of receiving in return, we are freeing ourselves from the binds of entitlement and desire. This not only brings joy to others but also helps us live with gratitude and recognize the value of what we already have. We should also learn to let go of expectations of reciprocation. Often, when we help others, we expect something in return. But remember, true giving demands nothing. When we release this expectation, our hearts become lighter, no longer burdened by disappointment or resentment. Gratitude is an essential part of letting go of entitlement. When we are grateful for the small things in life like the morning sunlight, the cool breeze, or a genuine smile, we realize that happiness does not come from grand or extravagant things, but from simple moments that are filled with meaning. Living with gratitude helps us appreciate the present, keeping us from being swept away by unrealistic desires. The mindset of, "What can I contribute?" also opens the door for us to discover the true meaning of life. When we focus on bringing value to others and to society, we feel a joy and satisfaction from deep within our hearts. This not only helps us live a meaningful life but also spreads positivity and happiness to those around us. In conclusion, letting go of entitlement is not about abandoning legitimate desires, but about living with an open heart, gratitude, and acceptance of whatever comes our way. When we live with gratitude and a spirit of sharing, we will come to realize that life is full of wonders, and true happiness does not lie in what we receive, but in how we live and contribute to the world. In life, change is inevitable, much like a river that flows continuously, or time that never ceases. Every moment we experience carries within it the seed of transformation. Yet, rather than accepting change, humans often tend to resist it because of the uncertainty it brings. However, in Buddhist teachings, accepting change is an essential part of the spiritual path and the quest for inner peace. Let us begin with a story of a meditation master and his young disciple. One day, the young disciple expressed his anxiety about the future, the unpredictable changes in life. The meditation master, with a kind gaze, took the young disciple to the garden, where a towering ancient tree stood. He said, "Do you see this tree? It was once a small seed, which has gone through countless springs, summers, autumns, and winters to become the large tree it is today. The life of the tree, too, has been in constant change, but it is precisely through these changes that it has grown strong and provided shelter for many living beings." Through this story, the meditation master wanted to convey that change is not something to fear, but rather a necessary force for growth and development. In each phase of life, we face changes both big and small, from changes in our environment, work, to shifts in relationships and personal emotions. Each change offers us the opportunity to learn and evolve. Buddhism teaches that everything in the universe is impermanent, *anika*, meaning nothing remains in a fixed state forever. Everything changes: our bodies, minds, and the phenomena around us. Understanding this impermanence helps us reduce attachment and suffering when we face changes. One concrete example is accepting death as an inevitable part of life. Buddhism does not see death as an end but as a part of the cycle of birth and rebirth. Accepting the truth that we cannot escape death allows us to live more fully in the present, to appreciate each moment, and to reduce our fear of the future. We must also learn to seize the opportunities that change brings. When one door closes, another often opens. For example, losing a job may present an opportunity to explore a new career that better suits us, or losing a relationship may offer a chance to find independence and a deeper understanding of oneself. Instead of focusing on what has been lost, we should look towards what can be gained through change. In Buddhist teachings, accepting change is also related to the practice of letting go. We often cling to what is familiar, thinking it will bring us safety and happiness. Yet, it is this very attachment that causes suffering when these things change or are lost. When we learn to let go, we realize that happiness does not depend on external conditions but on inner acceptance and peace. Another important aspect is our attitude toward change. Instead of fearing and worrying about it, we should embrace change with an open and positive mind. A practitioner of meditation, when confronted with change, will seek to understand its nature, not judge or resist it, but accept it as a part of life. We must also recognize that not all changes are easy or immediately bring positive results. Sometimes, initial changes can bring difficulty and suffering. However, if we remain patient and steadfast in our faith, we will come to see that every change has its reason and significance. Even the greatest challenges can become the most valuable lessons in life. Finally, remember that every ending is also a new beginning. When one chapter of life closes, we have the opportunity to start a new journey, equipped with the experiences and lessons we have learned. Change not only brings challenges but also opens new doors, helping us grow and progress on our spiritual path. In conclusion, accepting change is an important lesson that Buddhism offers us. By understanding and accepting the impermanence of life, we will find peace and happiness in our hearts. Instead of resisting, let us learn to live in harmony with change, and we will see that life is always full of wonderful opportunities. In the teachings of Buddhism, forgiveness is not merely an act of overlooking the mistakes of others, but also an inner journey that liberates oneself from the bondage of negative emotions. When we harbor anger and resentment within, it is we who must bear the suffering. Forgiveness is the key that opens the door to freedom, healing, and spiritual growth. The story of a woman and a famous meditation master vividly illustrates the true meaning of forgiveness. This woman had endured much suffering after being betrayed by her closest loved one. This suffering caused her to hold on to bitterness, unable to let go, which led to declining health and a troubled mind. One day, she sought the advice of the meditation master. The master quietly listened to her story. Then, he led her to a river and asked her to hold a heavy stone. He said, "Hold this stone and step into the river." The woman obeyed, but after just a few steps, she had to stop because the stone was too heavy. The master then said, "Do you see? When you carry the burden of resentment, it is like holding this stone. You cannot move forward. If you let it go, you will be light and continue your journey." Through this story, we see that holding on to anger and resentment not only causes us suffering but also hinders our progress in life. Forgiveness is not easy, but it is necessary to free ourselves from the weight of negative emotions. In Buddhism, forgiveness is seen as a part of compassion, *karuna*. Compassion is not only for others but also for oneself. When we forgive, we practice compassion for ourselves, allowing ourselves to be freed from suffering. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting the harm we have endured but accepting it as part of life, learning to let go, and moving forward. Another important aspect of forgiveness is the understanding of non-self, *anatta*. When we realize that the essence of humanity is non-self, that no one is perfect, and everyone has flaws, it becomes easier to forgive. Forgiveness does not mean agreeing with wrongdoing, but rather understanding that everyone has moments of weakness, and forgiveness allows both sides to find peace. Forgiveness is also closely related to acceptance and letting go. When we forgive, we accept that the past cannot be changed and release negative emotions to focus on a brighter future. Forgiveness frees us from being bound by the past and allows us to concentrate on the present and the goodness life offers. Forgiveness is also a part of liberation, moksha in Buddhism. Liberation is not only freedom from the cycle of birth and death but also freedom from the attachments of the mind, including anger and resentment. When we forgive, we draw closer to liberation, attaining true peace and happiness. The story of the Buddha and Devdatta is a clear example of the power of forgiveness. Devdatta, once a close friend of the Buddha, repeatedly plotted to harm him. Yet, the Buddha never harbored resentment, he maintained his compassion and forgiveness. In the end, Devdatta realized his mistakes and found peace through the Buddha's forgiveness. Forgiveness also helps us develop patience and understanding. When we forgive, we learn to view situations from different perspectives, understanding that everyone has their own reasons and circumstances. This helps us become more patient, less easily swept away by negative emotions. A practical example can be seen in family, friendship, or workplace relationships. When conflict arises, if we do not forgive, the relationship begins to deteriorate. But when we learn to forgive, we not only repair the relationship but also make it stronger. Forgiveness is the foundation of harmony and love. In conclusion, forgiveness is not just an act of pardoning others but also a precious gift we give to ourselves. Forgiveness frees us from negative emotions, bringing peace and happiness to our hearts. Through practicing forgiveness, we not only cultivate compassion but also draw closer to true liberation and inner peace in life. In Buddhist teachings, silence is not merely the absence of speech but the stillness of the mind. It is a profound state in which the mind is no longer disturbed by thoughts, emotions, or immediate reactions. Silence is power, an art of self-control, and an expression of wisdom and patience. In our daily lives, we are often swept up in the whirlwinds of emotion and quick reactions, but in moments of silence, we can find peace and the right path. Silence is not simply the act of refraining from speaking, it is the ability to be patient, not to react hastily, and to listen deeply. Silence is the practice of wisdom, where one realizes that not all answers must come from words sometimes. All that is needed is a pause to better understand oneself and the world around us. The story of the Buddha and an ascetic monk illustrates the true meaning of silence. One day, an ascetic monk came to the Buddha, filled with agitation. He explained that he had been verbally attacked and insulted by a member of the community, and he could not bear the injustice. The Buddha listened but did not speak. After a long while, the ascetic monk continued to express his frustration about the wrongdoer's actions and his own troubled emotions. The Buddha remained silent, calmly meditating without responding. Eventually, the monk began to feel an unusual calm rising within him. As he sat beside the Buddha, he realized that it was his own negative emotions and anger that had disturbed his inner peace. Finally, the monk asked the Buddha, "Do you have no advice for me? Why do you remain silent?" The Buddha gently replied, "Silence is not rejection, it is a deeper way of looking into the nature of the problem. When we remain silent, we do not allow our emotions to control us but let wisdom speak." In this case, silence was not an avoidance or weakness but a wise response. The Buddha did not react hastily or offer immediate advice. Instead, he allowed the ascetic monk to recognize the issue within himself through silence. In this, the Buddha's silence served as a means to awaken awareness and wisdom. Silence is also an excellent method for controlling one's emotions. In daily life, we often encounter situations where we feel compelled to react immediately, whether to protect our ego, defend our pride, or assert power. However, without pausing to reflect, hasty reactions often lead to more complications and suffering. Silence, on the other hand, helps us avoid negative emotions and allows wisdom the opportunity to arise. When we remain silent, we not only gain mastery over our emotions but also create space for words that truly have value. In a conversation, silence enables us to listen more deeply to what others are saying, without being influenced by personal thoughts and biases. In that silence, we can find precious answers and messages that words alone may fail to express. A person who knows how to be silent is someone who knows how to listen, and through listening, we open the door to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. In Buddhist teachings, there is a concept called mindfulness, *sati*, which refers to living fully in the present, without letting the mind be distracted by the past or future. Mindfulness is not only a mental state but also a practice that helps us live in harmony with the world. One of the aspects of mindfulness is the ability to maintain silence in moments of tension. When we do not allow ourselves to be swept up in impulsive emotions, we are more likely to recognize the true nature of a situation and respond more wisely. Silence is not avoidance, it is the awareness of the impermanence of all phenomena. When we live in silence, we understand that nothing is permanent, nothing is certain. Everything is transient, and silence helps us face reality in the most authentic way, without judgment, without escape. On the other hand, when we allow emotions to take over and react immediately, we often fall into ignorance, unable to see the true nature of things. There is a story in the scriptures about a young monk who was taught by the Buddha about silence. One day, this monk was criticized and pointed at rudely by another person. Instead of responding, the monk remained silent. Later, the Buddha came and asked why he did not react. The monk replied that he had learned that when others criticize him, it is an opportunity to practice silence and not allow emotions to control him. The Buddha praised the monk's calmness and explained that silence is the way to avoid being deceived by the emotions around us. Silence is also a method for cultivating and developing wisdom. In mindfulness, when we remain silent, the mind becomes still, no longer disturbed by the noise of the outside world. A clear mind allows us to perceive the true nature of things more deeply, and from that understanding, we can gain proper insight. Life is a series of challenges, and in moments of difficulty, silence is a wise choice. When we do not react hastily, when we do not let emotions control us, we can view problems more objectively. Silence gives us the space to reflect carefully and make more thoughtful decisions. A person who knows how to be silent is someone who masters themselves, someone who has control over their emotions and actions. In conclusion, silence is not weakness, it is strength in self-control. It is a deep spiritual practice that leads to peace and wisdom. Silence is not just a tool for dealing with tense situations but also a way to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Silence is power, and only when we understand the power of silence can we achieve true freedom and peace.